Here we are, day 4. Finally, we're going to be putting everything together. We're going to glue the covering to the cover, the inside and the outside. We're going to align the punch holes. We're going to make adjustments. We're going to thread the ribbon inside. And then we're going to press the book to make sure it stays flat. And of course, you're going to take lots of photos. So, no design space today. That was all taken care of a couple of times ago. Last day, you absolutely cut everything out. You cut it and folded everything. Well, we didn't fold because we're going to do most of that today. And now we're going to assemble the whole thing. So we're going to spend our day at the demo table and start putting things together. All right, take a look at this. This is a big mess on my desk right now because we've been cutting and I don't need any of these extra pieces. So let's get rid of those. I want my cover. I had a little tape on this one and I'm going to take that off. That was from when we punched out yesterday. Move my tools out of the way, get rid of the extra debris off of my desk. Now we're going to start working with the cover, and of course the first thing we want to do on the cover is to make sure that when we push this together, our holes are going to align, and they do. Now I want to make sure I hold this together and nothing happens to it, that it is going to stay in place. I'm going to clip it to the top, and I am also going to clip it to the bottom. And I'm going to do the same for everything that we do in here. I always have a bunch of spare clips around, so let's get this all aligned. I need to have this aligned because if I don't align it properly, it is not going to work extremely well. So now we want to take this piece and I'm going to align this. So at least at the bottom. Okay, it's my scissors. All right, so let's grab some clips for this. And I'm going to clip this in place. All right, that looks perfect. Now we have that gap that we talked about here. And I want to make sure everything's straight, so our gap is straight. That's about a 1/4 inch gap. Now the big key here is we need to tape this together in order for it to stay in place. Now I suggested you could probably use some masking tape, or you can use a Hinge tape, and the Hinge tape works really well. Today I'm not going to use my Hinge tape, but I'm simply going to use a masking tape. Just to show you, you don't need to buy expensive supplies when you're doing little projects like this. Now this is going to off, so what I want to do is I'm just going to come down the center here and tape that together. Now you'll notice I have a little bit at the top and I've come across on this. It's not exactly straight, but I'm not too worried about that. But now I can unclip everything, because what I want to do is turn it over and bring my tape right down the other side, straighten it out a little bit, and I'm actually going to tape it double on this side. It comes through, and there we go. All right, now I'm going to cut this piece off. So what I did is I just taped it round and round. Now I have to make sure it's going to bend, and that's the next. So that's going to be our front cover, and this is going to be our back cover. And I noticed I didn't cut it quite straight enough here, but we'll work on how we can adjust that a little later. All right, let's get rid of our clips here. We don't need our masking tape for at least a moment or two. What we want to do next, of course, is we are going to take the cover stuff that we created and we're going to start gluing it together. Now I punched some holes in this ahead of time, and you don't actually need to do that if you don't want to, because the whole idea here is Yes, I have to match everything up perfectly in order to work with it because I put the holes in ahead of time. If you don't put them in holes in ahead of time, then you don't have to worry so much about the exact matching. Now, the other thing I just did right now, I cut these corners. And you want to leave a little gap between the board and the edge. So I want you to come through and cut your corners just like that. And you're going to do the same with the second sheet. Now, our big thing here is we have to fold these up because we are going to be gluing them in place. You should have some overlap where I had you cut the corners, and there's a little trick that we're going to work on with that. Okay, just have corners like this. Now, it would be one thing to go ahead and just glue these down and just have it flap loose on the other side, but that's not what we want. So I've got my corners folded. So what I want to do now is I want to apply the glue. So let me just fold these back. So I actually want the glue to go on here. But if I do that, then it's really tough to match this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue on the inside of this. Now for today, I'm going to be using this art glue. And hopefully it'll come right out for me. And I'm just going to apply it. Now, it looks like I've got big globs, and that's true. I do have a big glob, but I just want to show you what I'm going to do. Now, this is crazy because what I'm going to do is take my fingers and I'm going to smooth it all around because I don't want big blobs and my paper to show the glue through. Okay, so we have all that. Makes a nice big mess. But if you have, you know, some wipes, then we can take care of that mess. So all I'm going to do is just take that mess off my hands, and we're going to do this a couple of times. This is a very messy project. Now remember those fold lines? Perfect. Okay, so the big key here is I have to match up the holes, and that is the first thing I want to do is match up those holes and then make sure that it's quite aligned at the top and then press it down. Looks pretty good. I am going to smooth it out. Get a nice flat surface here. Now, what we need to do is, of course, glue in our flaps. Same thing is going to apply all the way along here. You're going to get your hands very messy here. So let's just grab the glue along and grab the glue along. And this glue doesn't dry immediately, so I am able to do this. And of course, I have the extra. We're going to have something in here. So what I want to do is grab the outside edge and then just pull it down, and I want to do the same thing on the bottom. Now I'm going to turn it. Now you know those little extra corners, you're going to bend those in, just bend them in and then bring in your flap. You see it makes a nice little corner. Going to do the same on this side. We're going to bend that flap in. This one's a little more pronounced. This one's a little more pronounced. Just bend it in. There we go. And bring it down to keep that nice and flat. Nice. All right. So even though I have cut the holes in mine, we are going to be adding the inside piece, and I've cut some holes in here as well, so I know I'm going to have to match them. But you'll notice that my paper, because I put the holes in, became a little bigger, and that's why I always like to have scissors around. So I'm just going to cut some edges off. This is the one that I pre-cut. So let's just grab it here. It's not too straight. Cut the extra piece off. There we go. And I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm just actually going to bend it down where I want to cut it. Now with your measurements, we are a little more accurate than what I was doing with this one. Now same thing, I want the glue to go down, and then I want to have this pressed down so that we can flatten it. And we're going to do the same for the back cover as well. Looks pretty good. You might want to, you know, have a straighter line than what I have here. Just make it a little better here. All right, I'm going to put the glue here. And just a little along the edge. And remember, it's a lot of finger work here, making sure you don't have bubbles with your glue. Bring it down to the edges is not going to be an issue. And it's because we have, of course, the paper is going to go from side to side. But this, by using your fingers and smoothing it down, it's just going to make it a little easier. Now, if we didn't punch the holes ahead of time, you could just place it down. There we go. We've got it down into position. Now you're going to have to make sure that this dries before we take it to the next step. And that looks really good. We have our front cover with the little hinge on the go here. Just want to make sure, get everything glued into position. There we go. We've got our hinge. Yes, hinge is going to work just beautifully. All right, that is one piece done. We've got to get this next one done as well. And I just want to make sure that we line things up in the right way, that we've got the front and the back. Okay, so this is the inside, and this, by turning it over, is the outside. And we have our holes here for the outside. And this time I'm not going to fold it. I'm just going to show you a little different way of doing this. And of course we need all the glue. And it's just on the inside. I'm just going to come all the way around. We know it's about 1/4 of an inch. And you can be fairly liberal with the glue if you want. And it doesn't matter if it goes over the outside edges, because we are going to line things up. But I don't want extra bits of glue. What I want to do is flatten it out as much as possible, especially on the inside pieces, and it's gluing to me. Now we want to make sure that we have the holes aligned, and that is the biggest key, and probably as straight as possible. Now I know I've got some extra glue on the outside edges, but that's fine. But I need to straighten this part out. So you're just going to use your scraper and flatten it out. Hey, that looks great. I got a little extra on the mat here. Just wipe it down. All right, so next part is to get the edges. Now we've got some glue on the edges already, but I'm going to add just a little bit more. Okay, let's get these sides up. Okay, now same thing here. I'm just going to, now once again we have this little edge. Just going to push it in, fold it over. I'm going to push this edge in as we're folding. looks really good. Same thing, little edge. And that just makes a neater corner when you do the little edges like that. All right, so now we have one more piece to put into place. And once again, it is a little bit larger than what I want on the outside edges. So let me just do a little fold on each one. That way I can cut it a little straighter than I have the other one. We're almost there. Okay, so let's get some glue down here. And we're pretty well finished with the glue with this last piece here. Okay, let's get this all smudged out. Okay, big key here. I want to match those holes as best as possible. A little bit over on this side, so I will do a little trim on the fly. Your measurements will be a lot better than what I have for this one. Now this has got a little sticky part, so I'm going to have to set it aside to dry. And we'll just set that aside. We're getting a lot of debris here, so let me just move something off my work table. All right, so now we have the back, we have the front, and now we have all of the pages that we made. Now all we need to do with these pages is simply fold these over to make the pages so they are doubled up. Now I used a very thin cardstock here, and you can put them in any order that you want. You can add blank pages in between if that's what you decide you want to do. Folding this over is fairly simple. The hole should line up automatically because of the way we punch the holes inside. Okay, just a couple more to fold here. We do have 10 pages that we created. Okay, so I'm going to put the bear up front. I like the bear. And I've got all these pages already here. Just give them a good crease. Now I have some blank ones that I can put in at the back, and I might do that because that way you can add some of your own drawings to the back and not the curated graphics that I gave you. And it's a lot of fun. I might just put 3 or 4 of these pages in the back just to add some bulk to our book. And I think I'll just add 3 for now, and we'll just put this together here. Now, the biggest problem right now is these probably aren't dry enough, so I am going to put an extra piece at the back that I don't care if it falls apart. And I think the front one should be okay by now. This is the back. Yeah, the front one's fine. So it's more the back piece. So here is the back, and we're going to line things up with the back. Now you'll notice all the holes should be lined up perfectly here, including right through to the cover, but it's a matter of getting these aligned so you can see all the way through. I mean, you can use a tool. I've just got this, and what I can do is just push this through just to make sure everything lines up. That was the sample one I had. I should have folded it the other way. That's what the problem is. Okay. All the way through. And those line up, and then they'll line up the other side when I'm ready. All right, so this is our back cover. So I want it to come through like this as well. Now what I'm going to do is, lid's going to come off of that. I'm going to simply add my little clip here because I know the holes are all lined up, and then I'll line up the next one and do the same thing. There we go. Got that all lined up as well. Okay, maybe I'll do it at the bottom. A few of them moving out of position, and we can straighten that out a little later. And then this is the front of our book, and we want to make sure the hole aligns there as well. So let's just put those all together. I can see the hole right through on this one. Just grab this. That looks really good. And this one, I've got a couple that sort of stuck together here. You will want to straighten things out before we do the final piece with it. So let's just hook those together. We have one more step that we're going to take, and I'm just going to put the top on that. And that, of course, is adding our ribbon. We're going to start by pushing the ribbon through the first set of holes. Now, sometimes that's a little more difficult to do. I like to poke things through. Let's see if I can do it with the lid on this, and it won't hurt the ribbon so much. Just going to poke it through. I guess I can't work it with that. It's too thick. We'll poke it through. We get it out the other side. Look at that, we have it through. Now the whole idea behind that is to do a double for this, but you want to bring this straight across, and you want this one to go back through. So you're going to pull this up, you're going to bring it now back up through the same hole. So let's just take a look at this again. You've got a long sleeve here and a piece that's coming up the back. Now we're going to take this, we're going to wrap it around, and then we're going to push it back through the same hole. Now make sure you push it through the same hole, because that is going to make the difference between having it done correctly and something that might fall apart. So let me see if we can grab that ribbon out of there. There it is. There we go. So now I want to straighten that out a bit. I want enough that I can tie a bow, but we can take care of that in a minute. All right, for this one, of course, you're going to initially feed it through the back. There we go. I know it's come through. It's going to come across, and I'm going to feed it back down again through the same hole. Doesn't have to be tight right away. You definitely need to poke it down there. See, it's coming up through here. There we go. So now I can release that other, and you want to straighten everything out on your book to make sure it's going to work. Now there's approximately the same size. You can adjust it a little bit. Let's see, that one's turned a bit, so let's straighten it out. There we go. There it is. That's pretty straight. That's straight. Now all you need to do with this is, you want to secure these tightly, and I will take that clip off as well. And then of course you want to tie it. Just do a double tie. It's not quite even. There we go. And then of course you want to make a little bow on it as well, and then you can trim off the piece if you want. So this is the coloring book that we just put together. It is still pretty damp. And then you want to be able to press this down so it's not going to warp. Now it's pretty well dry, so now we can open this. Now this is the interesting part about this. You've got all these different pages that we've created. And of course we've made them so that they are perfed. So if someone decides they want to rip one out, they can just rip it out just like that and then take that page off. So I hope you had a lot of fun with this countdown project. It was so incredibly fun to make, and I know you're going to make quite a few more. And I just love the result of what we have here. This is just absolutely incredible. So I know you're going to have a lot of fun making these. And remember that the images I gave you are simply for you to use as practice and make your first, of course, coloring book. Now this is a long project, but if you break it down into small steps, it's not so bad. The biggest time, of course, is cutting everything out, and we didn't spend the time cutting it out on the videos, but that is an extra hour or so that you're going to have to put into the project. So we've spent almost 2 hours just on these 4 videos and putting the whole thing together, plus another hour or so to cut it. It is a long project, but I will tell you, it is so rewarding. I have done several, as I had shown you one from before, and I'm going to show you one more that I had done. And of course I bought some special paper for this, and I just made a vellum inside, and I did a presentation book. And it was so much fun to put together. And this is mulberry paper. It's more expensive, but you can work with that. These ones I simply use like cardstock from one of my stacks. So that worked out quite well. So I hope you had a lot of fun with this countdown project. And please post it into our Facebook group. That is Facebook.com/groups/Bette Makes. I really want to see what you've made. So I will see you inside the workshop.